The Leah Renee Podcast.
I love it, I love it, I love it!
Well, guess what? There's stuff you can do to make it not be so awful.
We going on Drax. And Scouts.
I have a crush on every
A
boy!
low point of my life. I mean, things were bad.
You're a nut job. You're eating bags.
Hi, this is the Leah Renee Podcast, episode 13. I just wanted to apologize for last week's episode. I've been thinking a lot about it. I did not mean to ramble about the Mormon Church lawsuit against Mormon Stories as much as I did, so I wanted to begin with an apology on that. I have left the episode up. It's not that the whole thing was about it, but it's actually meant to be about personality tests, and I rambled for quite a while on it, but my recorder died. So there's not as much about the personality tests as maybe the Mormon Church thing. I think the main thing to me is I'm grumpy about First Amendment rights. There's been a huge backlash against peaceful protests, both in the UK and the US. We have high-ranking billionaires that have been canceling late night. You have Trump press conferences that have media that are only friendly to him. You've got Jeff Bezos buying out the Washington Post and gutting it. And then just kind of the Viktor Orban stuff with media being controlled by the government. I know that's in Hungary and not here in the States, but there are a lot of ultra-conservatives that really liked Viktor Orban and supported him wholeheartedly. So I think that's probably the reason that I got so grumpy, is seeing the Mormon Church trying to silence their critics. It seems like if what you believe is true and the truth will set you free, then you shouldn't worry so much about the haters. The Mormon Church largely functions more like a corporation sometimes than a religion. But again, and I mentioned this last week, that's from the people running the church, not the members. Although there are plenty of members, like social media influencer types, that have the kind of brand loyalty that you would see someone has for Sephora or Chipotle or something. So, all right, I'm not going to talk more about that. I'm sorry. This is actually why I deactivated Facebook, because I get my feathers really ruffled about stuff like this, and that's not how I want to live. And that was the main regret that I had, was I want to be adding love and light to the conversation and not just grumpiness. But it's very natural and easy for me to rant. I'm basically like Bill Burr as a Mormon housewife. I actually have an audio recording from the night that I ranted really hard about comics, talking about kids, and specifically comments crapping on kids and talking about how awful they are. And like, no, I get to dog on kids because I actually have them. And all of us are here because somebody, usually multiple people, raised you to adulthood and had to put up with all of your shenanigans when you were a kid. So anyway, that recording is on my external hard drive, which is still, fingers crossed, being repaired. So if I get that back, I'll see if I can find the clip. It was actually a very fun night. It was a very unexpected night of comedy. It was at a dive bar in South Philly at a mic that starts notoriously late. Often doesn't have actual patrons there. It's mostly just comedians. So it can kind of feel like a waste of time. But that night I found a part of myself, and that's sort of what I struggle with in comedy, is I like to rant. I like to get things off my chest. I like to rah, 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 rah. But then I'm not like making the world a better place, or am I? I don't know. These are the kinds of questions that I have. I can really enjoy myself in the moment, but then I feel the effect afterwards. Sometimes they call it a vulnerability hangover. It's not, maybe not so much vulnerability as kind of a rage hangover. I don't know. Just classic regret from popping off and doing a scorched earth kind of comedy set. I guess you could challenge the idea that it's better to be calm and composed and look before you leap, because I can see the benefit of hearing the other side of the argument and being open. And I know that you change more hearts when you can see both sides and offer a steel man argument. I know that's more effective than a straw man one, but it just feels so good. I like John Oliver kind of stuff. It feels good to hear someone list off all the reasons why they're ticked off about something. Actually, if you like debate stuff, there's a group called Intelligence Squared, and they have debaters on both sides. It's not a comedy show. It's quite academic. If you like comedy, there's a Canadian show called The Debaters that I recently found. That's very fun. That's two comedians debating a topic. But Intelligence Squared, they have all kinds of debates like assisted dying should be legalized, or parenting doesn't matter, or not as much as you think. They have one about Britain entering the First World War and why they should not have fought in it. They've got one about removing statues, which had the most press during the pandemic. While a lot of us were opening our eyes to the Black Lives Matter movement and really disturbing colonial roots that many of us whiteys in the Western world didn't really know about. I mean, I learned about the colonies when I was a kid, but it was kind of this, oh, yay, Britain came over and they found this new country and look at what they did with it. They made amazing things. Sometimes we would cover the thing about the Pilgrims giving Native Americans smallpox, but I've talked with my English friends and they've noted that when they talk about colonialism in school, they don't really paint themselves as the bad guys for all the stuff that went down in India and Kenya and dozens, if not hundreds of countries around the world that Britain colonized. Intelligence Squared is nice because when the audience enters, they get to log what their opinion is. So if it's something like AI is good for the classroom, maybe 70% of people think that's a good idea. You can also vote undecided, but the person who wins the debate is the one who sways the most people to change their mind from what their initial answer was. It's a very good look at what actually causes people to change their minds. And it's nice because when you look at presidential debates, it's a lot of ad hominem stuff and people interrupting with applause and politicians trying to get good sound bites and clips for social media. But Debate Squared is beautifully boring and factual and I think quite interesting. So I do recommend Intelligence Squared debates. They're very good. So speaking of debates, I am still in my internal debate about the merits of stand-up comedy as my primary focus. I go back and forth about how I want to spend my time, and I won't really go into it on here because it's probably pretty boring for people that aren't comedians to go through all my pros and cons. But believe me, I have many times and have plenty of people telling me I'm overthinking it, but I don't know. It's my life. I think people underthink things a lot and then look back and go, oh man, I wish I would have done this or that. Maybe it is kind of analysis paralysis and I should just grow up and pick a lane. So I decided to go back where I started and picked up the book that set me on the path that I'm on now. Yes, I'm talking about Steering by Starlight, that old chestnut. That's the book that I roasted the cover and title of a few podcast episodes ago. Essentially because the title and the imagery used is kind of a detriment to reaching materialists and rational left-brainers. Steering by Starlight is a self-help book by Martha Beck, and I really enjoy it. It includes a lot of really good exercises to try to dig down deep. But the problem is I bought the book used, and it said it was in, air quotes, good condition. So I was surprised to see that when it arrived, there was a lot of writing in the marginalia and some of the personal questions that you ask yourself had been filled in. So it was supposed to be a self-help book, but my personal copy is kind of a voyeuristic peep show of a woman that I may never meet. In fact, I would like to meet her and give her a big hug because I know so much about this lady. I know that she doesn't like her destructive job at Amazon because she said she is expected to work nonstop with, as she put it, passive, aggressive, unbalanced workaholics. I know she wants to be a size 6 and have hot legs, and that her boyfriend, partner, husband, whoever, is named Joe. And apparently Joe's not making bank because she revealed a limiting belief in the book that she'd never worry about money if she had a wealthy spouse. So it sounds like Jo is not currently bringing in the bacon. I've often wondered if she works in the Amazon warehouse or if she works in corporate, but she talks about her job at Amazon a lot. I know that she fell down and knocked her teeth out because someone named Chris moved from where he was sitting. I really want to know that story. I know she felt out of place at her neighborhood block party, also at her Amazon job, and Daniel's Happy Hour. I assume that's a bar. Maybe I could do some investigative journalism and try to figure out the location. Because I bought the book used from thrift books, she really could be from anywhere. But wouldn't that be cool if she lives in New Jersey and I could meet her someday? Anyway, if you know who this person is, please let me know. I can almost guarantee you I know more about her than you do. I know that her inner lizard tells her to worry about not having a job, friends, affording a mortgage, and that she will always be fat, and that she named her inner lizard Java, who looks like a fat bullfrog with a multicolored tail and long, sharp claws and teeth. I don't know if you've heard the idea of the inner lizard, but the term lizard brain is often used to describe the part of your brain that's very ancient and is scared and tries to avoid risk and always looking for danger. So in the chapter Wizard versus Lizard, the battle for your brain, you're taught to identify those thought patterns that you have that are coming from the primal fear-based part of your brain. So I'll give you an example from page 32. So Martha Beck says, here are some favorites I've heard from hundreds of clients. So these would be lizard thoughts. I'll never find love. Something may have gone right, but you know the other shoe is going to drop. You can't trust anyone in this rotten world. I have to keep secrets. People will use information to hurt me. Ultimately, everyone will betray me. The minute I get anything, someone will take it from me. Nice guys always end up getting screwed. Successful people have all the luck. I just get bad breaks. So those are some examples. They kind of sound a bit old. I think some more modern ways of framing that would be, I'll never succeed, or the deck is stacked against me, or nobody really likes their job. You just have to do it. I'll tell you her top 10 lizard tunes. Oh no, I don't have enough. She put money. If I don't watch out, someone will take advantage of me. People want to take my money. I can't be perfectly happy until I get a good job. Everybody pressures me to work more. You just can't trust anyone. People will hurt me unless I watch out. If I only had, take a guess, what has she been talking about this whole time? More money, better job. Someone is always out to scam you. I must hang on to your money. That's kind of funny that she put your money. Whose money? Her money? Joe's money? I don't know. I have so many questions after spying on this poor lady who actually made it pretty far through the book before it looks like she gave up. About 100, page 133 is the last time anything is underlined. And then I assume, I don't know, hopefully she figured it out. I hope she is living the life of her dreams, has hot legs, and has found a better happy hour to attend. I also hope she got some good work done on her teeth. That sounds awful to have your teeth knocked out. Having that book was actually good for me to be grateful for what I have, because it's so easy to forget the things going well in your life. I certainly do, and that's why I really like gratitude journal stuff. I need to get a new one because I had a little teeny one in it filled up. But anybody else out there doing gratitude journals? Just curious. It's pretty incredible how well it works, and yet we don't really do it very much. That's why I've thought about, have I told you guys about my app that I've designed in my head and on a few pieces of paper? Is that a limiting belief? Okay, I have this idea for an app. I think I would call it HAP, like happy, but it's an app. HAP. Clever. See what I did there? Anyways, so the working name of this app is called HAP. And it could start with the values quiz that I talked about last week. The values quiz is kind of like a March Madness bracket where from a list of about 100 values, you pick your top 10. And then you pit each of those values against each other to rank them. And then it narrows it down to 5. So the app could begin with that. I think some people would just want to get straight into it and not look at their values. But basically, when you open the app, it's as interesting as social media is because every time you open it, it's different. But the things that it shows you on your home screen are the things that you've told it are important to you. So, for example, if one of your top values is human connection, staying in touch with family and friends, when you open HAP, one of the top options could be text mom or send a message to Jessica. If you like, it could suggest some things. It could ask you some prompt questions like, did you watch anything interesting on TV? Or have you recently enjoyed a meal that reminded you of somebody? It could be something like that. But just an encouragement to send a note. So that would be an example, but everyone's HAP would be different. Kind of like social media algorithms are tailored for each person, your app would be tailored to the things that you're interested in. So maybe you're trying to learn German. Then on your home screen, it could have a couple of German words for you or link you up to Duolingo or something for you to take a few minutes or more to practice German. Maybe it shows you a YouTube video from a funny German TV show. I know that's an oxymoron, a funny German TV. Have you seen some of the clips of German TV? They have so many. One of them is a shopping trolley competition where you stand some distance from the little cart rack and then you have to push a shopping trolley into the narrow corral. And it's a competition. So that's one that I've seen. Another one is a competition where you have to cut things in half and then they weigh both sides of it. And the aim is to cut them exactly in half. So it's like a giant soft pretzel and someone has a sharp knife and they're eyeballing it and looking how much salt is on one side or the other, trying to determine what exactly half would be. And then they put them on the scales. I'm telling you, it sounds dumb, but it is kind of interesting. It sort of reminds me of the carrot in a box game from 8 out of 10 Cats, which is also a really fun watch if you've not seen that. Sean Locke and John Richardson go head to head in a very basic bluffing game. But oddly, there's real tension created. And they sort of point that out, that this is such a pointless game. And at the end of it, all you win is a wilting carrot. But I'm telling you, it oddly makes very good television. Okay. So HAP would prioritize the things that you're interested in. And when you opened it, it would point you to those things. Perhaps the most similar app to this would be one called Finch that somebody recommended to me. And I tried it initially. They try to gamify mental health kind of things, but I found that it was very over the top. It was too gamified. You have this little bird that I think you feed it through the things that you do. So it can be really basic stuff like I got out of bed, I brushed my teeth, I walked outside for 5 minutes. They could be very simple things, but when you complete them, you get a certain number of points. And I think that gives the bird health to go on its journey. But then there's all these extra things like you can buy hats and clothes and rugs and furnish this bird's apartment. And it was out of control. It was too much stuff. I hope I'm not going on about my app too much, but I've wondered, do I have limiting beliefs around making an app? Because there's plenty of people who are making apps out there. It just seems too big of a project for me to do on my own. And I have a sneaking suspicion that someone is already in the works making this, somebody bigger than I am. And I know that could be a limiting belief, but I think I'm scarred because I remember listening to a screenwriting podcast where this guy talked about this really original, brilliant idea that he had. He had finished the screenplay for it. He was really excited. And then right as he was about to pitch it, a movie with the exact same premise just came out and it had a bunch of big A-list actors. And he realized, well, okay, that's not going to be made. So, but see, I would say that's probably the lizard brain. Maybe? I don't know. It also seems like common sense to me. This is why I spin my wheels a lot. And I think after getting back into steering by Starlight, one question that you can ask yourself is, what do you enjoy doing even if you never made any money at it? Which is kind of a hard question for me because there are a lot of things that I enjoy doing. So it doesn't always narrow down the field. I've taken to trying out a lot of different things. I know that I like to make people laugh and the added bonus of helping them think specifically about themselves, their relationships, the way that they view the world. Sure, you can write a joke about Velcro or whatever, but I like bits like Jim Jeffries' gun control bit. Michelle Wolf has a brilliant one she does about how she thinks it should be harder to make babies than it is. It is so good. If I weren't worried about copyright stuff, I would probably put the clip in here. I need to learn about copyright stuff. A couple of episodes ago, I had a song in my intro that I realized I don't know about copyright stuff, so I changed the intro to royalty-free music. So I'm not sure if I can play the Michelle Wolf bit, but it's so good. It's so relatable, and I think it changes minds and opens up people to thinking about different things. One of the things I've been interested in lately is sketch writing. Because I started taking a screenwriting class, I did a few of the course requirements online, but I found that the people in the screenwriting community are kind of like very serious, kind of moody writers. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely have that within me. I can be very earnest and serious, but I've said it before, it's easier to make people cry than laugh. It's easier to be serious and academic and make all these strong points than it is to be funny, to be able to make people laugh and to do it really well. So I am taking a class with Dave Cohen, and I'm very excited. He is the Horrible History star songwriter and 8-time BAFTA winner. He's incredible. He's written a couple of books about comedy and continues to write for TV and radio. And then on the side, he has this little class that he teaches, and there were a couple spots left. So I will be starting that in October. Why did I feel like I was slurring my words? A couple spots left, I think. I'll also be going up to New York City a lot more. I have a writing session with one of my closest comedy friends this weekend, and I'm going to an improv show. And I think at the end of the summer, I could do it during the summer, but the schedule's a bit wonky. I'll also be doing UCB's improv class. I have been afraid to do improv because the one time I did it was at Edinburgh Fringe. It was on this mixed showcase where you did 5 minutes of stand-up. 3 other people, whatever, did stand up, and then you just did an improv thing on stage. And I thought, I can do this. I'm good at riffing. Oh, I was not good at it because I'm not a very good listener. Is that a limiting belief, or is that just knowing myself? I think it's knowing myself, because when people talk to me, my mind is usually spinning on how I can respond, especially if it's with an interesting anecdote or something that's funny. And I've really lately been steering towards improv because it keeps coming up in the interviews that I listen to and people that I admire. I don't know that for me, I'm considering changing my career to improv, but it's kind of like with clown. It's not that I want to change from stand-up comedy to clown, but I really like the ethos of clown and just how it changes me as a person. So part of my desire to do some improv classes is to be a better listener. Mike Birbiglia recently had a master improv guy on his podcast. And that's when I thought, yeah, I would like to try that out. And maybe I will be terrible at it, but I think I'll be a better person for having done it. Because stand-up comedy is such a lone wolf kind of industry. I think it will be good to share the stage with other people, work with them, build something together. I'm just quite excited about it. So I will probably start that at the end of the summer. I don't really feel like going up to New York once or twice a week during the summer. It's hot and crowded, and there are a ton of tourists there in the summer. I think probably September or October, I will be doing UCB improv. So does anybody care about this? I don't know. You know what you should care about? The thing that I've always wanted, but not the expense and responsibility, is a cockatiel. And guess what? This weekend I did it. I got a little burb. He's very cute, but he's very nervous, and he hasn't really warmed up to us quite yet. So I just sit in the room and I play music for him, and I whistle, and he hasn't been drinking water, so I just hold a little spoon up to his face so that he'll drink. Hopefully he will lighten up and like us, but oh, I want to be loved by him so much. He's such a good boy. We're still debating on a name, and most of the ones that I liked got shot down, but here we are. One of them I liked was Alfred Hitchcock-Atiel. That's, okay, you don't like that. That's okay. We considered naming him Inigo Montoya. that was a contender. Marty McFly, which seemed too basic. But it seems like we've settled on George Costanza or Boo Radley. But having worked in vet med, the names George and Boo are very common. That's why I wanted him to have a funny name like R.J. Fletcher from UHF, if you know that cult classic Weird Al 80s movie. R.J. Fletcher is the bad guy. So I sit with him and I find videos on YouTube, but I wanted to find some of the best whistlers in the world because I would like him to be maybe like a little bougie opera bird or something. So I stumbled into a treasure trove of whistling videos. These are world champion whistlers, and what a delightful rabbit hole. I think you'd really like it. So I don't know if I can play this on my podcast. I think I can. I think it's under fair use if it's just a little clip. Okay, so I'm gonna show you a few of these because they're so incredible. Okay. All right, this one is Jay Winston. He's actually based in New Jersey, which is right on the other side of the Delaware River, just 5 minutes from my house. This clip is of him doing the Queen of the Night aria from Mozart's Magic Flute. Unreal. Okay, here we go. This is Jay Winston, New Jersey bass whistler. Isn't that incredible? He also whistles like he's singing opera, not just the way it sounds, but his facial expressions, the way he moves around, he's amazing. This guy deserves his due credit. So I will put a link to this and the other ones in the show notes if you want to watch the full performance. All right, this one is Alex Pinto. He's also doing Mozart. This is Andante in C, as whistled by Alex Pinto. Isn't that gorgeous? Maybe you don't like this as much as I do, but I think it's gorgeous. I find it so fascinating. Not all of the songs that people whistled for this competition are classical music. I'll give you an example of one that's not classical music. This is Not in That Way, as whistled by Brian Crowley. Now, I had never heard this actual song in real life, but the way that he whistles it sounds very vocal. He does scoops and vibrato that sound like a human voice. What's also interesting, he has a really high whistle. I would say whistling is already a soprano sport, right? He's I don't know, there's like mezzo soprano, alto soprano, soprano, piccolo soprano. I don't know what you would call it. But if this guy were a flute, he would be a piccolo. It's quite high. Okay, here we go. This is Brian Crowley. All right. I think that's probably going to do it for me today. Normally, my podcasts are, 40 to 60 minutes or so. This is going to be a shorter one. That's because I'm getting ready for my interview in a couple of days with another comedian. So the next podcast episode that you listen to will have another comedian, and I'm very excited. Well, I'm saying I don't want to jinx it. No, I'm not putting that energy out there, right? That's the lizard brain. The lizard brain says, people are going to let you down. You can't trust people. People are flaky. But I'm going to trust that it's going to go off without a hitch. I think you're really going to like him. He is an equestrian veterinarian. I mentioned him last week. We were supposed to do it last week, but technical difficulties. And speaking of veterinarians, I'm going to go downstairs and see how my little boy is doing. My little boy. He's a little boy. That's what I say when I come in. That's what I call babies, or boys. He is so cute, you guys. I'll put up a picture of him. He came from kind of a yucky background. Like, I felt badly for him when the guy brought him. He was in this dirty cage with a bunch of other cockatiels, and he still has stuff on his face. I kind of want to clean him up, but he has to trust me enough to clean him off. So we're working on it. I give him little Nutriberries, and I play bougie whistle music, and I've already created in the fourth dimension that little George Costanza cockatiel loves his life here and likes to do tricks and take treats from my hand. We even got him a tiny little skateboard. I don't know that he'll ever be interested in it, but it was pretty adorable. So maybe I will visualize that as I'm going to sleep, training my cockatiel to use a skateboard. I wouldn't be the first person to do it. There's plenty of bird videos out there of birds on tiny little bikes and skateboards and playing basketball and all that stuff. It's very fun. I hope you're well wherever you are, and I will be back next week with a horse veterinarian. In the meantime, you can send me horse questions if you have any, but until then, this is the Leah Renee Podcast. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Leah Renee Podcast. If you'd like to help me grow the old-fashioned way, but without having to bow to the likes of social media, visit my website, leahrenee.co. And as always,
Go to bed early, you doofus.